Hello and welcome to episode 2 of season 1 of the Sit Rep podcast. I can't believe I am already on episode 2. I recorded episode 1 yesterday and I was going to plan to do episode 2 in a few days, but I really enjoyed recording episode 1 so much that I've decided just to jump feet first, ignore all of my other priorities for today and record episode 2. So I hope you've listened to episode 1 already. If you haven't done so, please jump in and listen to that one, as it goes into some more graphic detail about my back history, why I started the YouTube channel, my weight loss journey, the reason I have the relationship I do with fitness, my unbalanced obsessive personality, and also some quite personal revelations around some of the troubles I had in regards to alcohol, my relationship with food, etc, etc. I'm not going to go into any detail in this episode. You can just download and listen to episode 1 now if you're interested. What am I going to talk about in this episode? So this episode is a bit more ad hoc. It's a little bit more free-flowing. I don't actually have a script for today's episode, but I am going to go through some of your questions. Now, I put out a community post on both my YouTube channel and on my Patreon page, and I asked for questions on the back of my new benchmark of 4,000 subscribers. So last week I achieved 4,000 subscribers. As I look at it now, let me just quickly double check. So as I look at my channel now, I've just clicked onto it on the screen in front of me. I am now on 4,110 subscribers. That's a benchmark for me, and I asked for you guys to share any questions in the hope that I'd make a Q&A video. Now, I am still going to make that Q&A video, so don't worry, it's going to go up onto my YouTube channel, but I thought it would make for a really, really good season episode, which is what I'm making today. So I'm going to read through some of your questions, free flowing, and then I'm going to answer them on the spot. So let's dive straight into this. Let's start with one of the first questions I've got. So this is a question asked by Jake Sanderson, and he said, a lot of people wish they could make those changes in life and reap the rewards, but very few actually do. As the saying goes, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So kudos and well done to you, Ryan, for doing it, absolutely smashing it out the park. So first off, thank you very much, Jake, for asking this question. And well, it's not really a question, but thank you for making that statement. I do always say that if I can do it, anyone can. This is my response. So I always respond when people ask serious questions. I don't respond to all questions on the internet because the internet can be a strange place, but I do respond when I can see that it's a genuine point from a genuine individual who's trying to make change. I do always say that if I can do it, anyone can. I genuinely mean that. So I'm a person who, I'm no different to anybody else out there wanting to make change. I don't have anything special. I don't have a magic wand. I don't have a spell book. I said this in my last episode. I don't have anything that makes what I do different to what you can do. I genuinely believe that. And if I can do it as a previously very heavy obese bloke who's lost a shed load of weight, if I can do it, anyone can. I've got my coffee here. I'm just going to have a quick sip. I should have called this the coffee podcast or something. I'm sure that exists. But yeah, I'm my only vice. I'm vegan. I don't drink. I'm completely teetotal. I don't eat red meat. I don't eat any meat whatsoever because I've mentioned vegan. I try and eat as clean as possible. I don't have sugar. I've completely given up all sugar where possible. I know there's sugar in fruit and veg and stuff, but you know, I've given up processed sugar. I don't drink. I'm completely teetotal. I don't have any alcohol. My only vice is coffee. I drink far too much coffee for what's good for me. So yeah, I've got my cup of coffee here ready to go for this podcast episode. Next question. It's really inspirational to see your transformation. It's hard to treat ourselves properly and to pursue the person that we could be. We get shaped by our neurosis. It's amazing to see someone setting their sights on a vastly healthier version of themselves and bringing that into fruition. Well done and keep it up. God knows what life would look like if we all followed that example in our own ways and made a commitment to ourselves to love the person that we could be properly. The good is contagious and you're planting good seeds in all of our lives by sharing this. Thank you. So this was posted by Max Horrocks. Hope I've got that right, Max. I want to say thank you for posting this. He does go on to then ask a question, but he did say something here which resonated with me, which is God knows what life would look like if we all followed that example in our own ways. It's really, really important that anyone listening to this knows that the best way to achieve anything, any change whatsoever, and I talked about this again in my last episode, Anyone that wants to achieve any change does so in their own way. There's no point emulating or copying anyone you see online. I hope people enjoy my videos. I hope people get the most out of my videos for what they are, which is, you know, a journey of what I'm doing and what I'm up to and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But I don't expect anyone to copy what I do, because most of the time I don't really know what I'm doing, and I certainly wouldn't copy it if I had a choice. So where he says here, God knows what life would be like if we all followed that example in our own ways, that's probably the most important thing he's put. Doing things in your own way. So important. So then he goes on to say, my question would be, how do you resist falling back into your old habits? Do you have a routine that keeps you aiming in the right direction, like meditation or prayer? I did answer this question in my last episode, but I'm going to answer it again here. I don't meditate or pray specifically. I don't go out of my way and sit on the floor and have that stereotypical position. Who was that character in Street Fighter? Dalsim, was it? Hang on, let me just Google. Street Fighter. Yes, it is. Yeah. God, that's the 80s and 90s coming back to me there. So, yeah, the street character Dalsim is always what I think of when I think of that meditation position. If you don't know who I'm talking about, Google it. No, I don't meditate. I don't pray. I'm not particularly religious. I do have a spiritual aspect to me, but not one that anyone would recognise as being anything particular. I don't go out of my way to do anything about that. When I say I have a spiritual aspect to me, is I believe that you reap what you sow. Good things happen to good people, and there is karma. You know, that's as far as my spiritual Zen side to my personality goes. But it really makes a huge difference in my fitness and my weight loss journey and my motivation specifically, because if I am forcing myself to do something out of my comfort zone, I believe that I get a lot in rewards for that. I believe that I get a lot back from pushing myself to do things that I'm not very good at, I'm not comfortable with. I'm a firm believer that if you stay within your comfort zone, if you spend too long doing the things that you know you're happy to do, you're never going to stretch yourself. You're never going to learn new things. You're never going to reach new horizons. It's why people have the urge to go traveling. It's why people have midlife crises, because they're bored of their existence within their comfort zone, because that's exactly what it is. Now, obviously, if you go to the extreme of that and spend your entire existence outside your comfort zone, then you're just going to cause yourself unnecessary anxiety. However, I think there needs to be a balance struck somewhere. So if you spend 90% of your life within your comfort zone, fantastic, because that means that you're going to spend 10% of it doing things that scare you. Now, there is a really good quote that I always use. I'm just going to find it here. I was organised before I started this podcast, but as you can tell, I've gone slightly off tangent. So this is a really good quote. So this is a quote that I use quite a lot, much to the dismay of my family, who could probably quote all of the things that I say off the top of their head. So the quote is by a guy called Lazarus Lake. If you don't know Lazarus Lake, again, Google his name. He is the creator, inventor of the brutal Barkley Marathons. Now, the Barkley Marathons are a marathon event in America. Americans are crazy, and they come up with some extreme ultra marathon events. Now, this one is an extreme event. I might talk about it in a future episode, actually. I'm not sure. If that's something you're interested in, please let me know, because I'm absolutely in awe of some of these athletes that can complete this. But every year, guys and girls rock up to this event, and it's a loop, and you complete it within a timed time scale. So you go out, complete the loop, come back, and you have a time scale to get back by. And it's obviously a big old loop. I'm simplifying it, but you're not allowed to use any GPS, no maps. You've got to do it all from memory, and you've got to learn the trails as you go. And it's all to do with coordination and the ability to be able to read the terrain. The more loops you do, the more tired you get, and then the harder it is to keep on top of all the things you need to stay on top of. For anyone that's done a long distance run, you know that you reach a point where your faculties start to go. I get brain fog. Once I've reached the point of absolute exhaustion on a long 100k run or a marathon run, sometimes not so much on marathon runs, but anything further than marathon distance, especially if it's really hot and I've used a lot of energy to get to where I've got to, and I'm burning off calories and fuel cells within my body to keep me going. As soon as they all start going, I start getting brain fog and I start making mistakes. So I couldn't imagine having to then navigate unknown terrain. That would be crazy. But anyway, this guy Lazarus Lake had a quote that I absolutely love. If you're going to face a real challenge, it has to be a real challenge. You can't accomplish anything without the possibility of failure. It's so true. If you're going to do anything in life that's worth doing, it has to include the risk or possibility of it going wrong, of it not happening, of you not achieving it. That's the definition of coming out of your comfort zone. If everything you do from a weight loss, from a fitness perspective, doesn't even need to be weight loss and fitness. It can just be in business. It can be your family life. It can be aspirations, setting up a YouTube channel, for example. Anything you want, starting a new job, to come out of your comfort zone and to achieve anything in life, there has to be the risk of failure. Because if there isn't a risk of failure, then you're not really going to achieve anything. And it's all going to be too safe and sanitized and secure. And you're never, ever going to push the boundaries. Just going to have a quick sip of my coffee. So I'm going to move on to Patreon for the next question. This question was asked by William Dorapau. So I just want to say thank you, William, for asking this question, and I appreciate your support on Patreon. Hi, Ryan. You know I've been working out with the same intention as you, getting fitter and getting healthier again. Zwift works great for me, but last month I got periods of very heavy feeling upper leg muscles, which took almost a week before it got better. Afterwards, I got knee pain, which caused me inconvenience and kept me from cycling on Zwift. My weight loss continued because of my new lifestyle, but got afraid to exercise. Doctors say my knee was fine. It's just the muscles who had a rough time in my enthusiastic efforts on Zwift. Bit of a long intro, but I wondered if you experienced physical issues or had setbacks in your efforts. You even got vegan, which is another challenge because nutrition is very important to fuel the body. Running and overweight is also a challenge, so please tell us your experiences along the road. By the way, I got back on Zwift tonight. Body is cooperating with me again. So a couple of things. Firstly, I'm really sorry to hear that you've been suffering with knees and muscle problems. So I hope you feel better soon, William. It's great to hear that you've been back on Zwift recently and your body's working and cooperating with you. That's always nice. Injury. So injuries are always a tough one. It's really frustrating to get set back in your ambitions when you have an injury. Unfortunately, injuries do come with the territory, and we do our best to kind of mitigate against that. I suppose there's a few things here. The first thing is go easy on yourself. And when I say go easy on yourself, I'm a bad example of that because I push myself sometimes past breaking point and I don't know when to stop. I am one of those individuals where if I turned up at an ultra event, a marathon, even a personal challenge like the Yorkshire Free Peaks, which wasn't organised, it was just me rocking up and walking a really long way over mountains. If I ever got to the point where I knew I had to stop, I don't think I'd know I was at that point where I knew I had to stop, and I think I'd keep going. Now that is something which I don't really put in my videos because I get a long barrage of comments about how I need to be careful and it's dangerous, etc., etc. I know more about what I can achieve now because of pushing myself through those barriers in the early days. If I quit when I reached the end of my road for the first time running because I was tired, I would never have reached the park. And then by reaching the park, I was able to run round the park. And then after I'd run round the park, I was able to go to the next town, and then so on and so on and so on. If I stopped at the first hurdle, I never would have overcome that first hurdle. So I suppose that's my point there, is you need to work out the difference between risking injury and pushing through those barriers. Now, I've gone running with friends and family. I've gone and done long walks with people who just aren't into fitness whatsoever. And they've stopped and said, they've stopped when they've got a stitch. And that's not risking injury. That's just your body not being used to cardio, your body not being used to using muscles that you've never used before. That's a different point. So I just wanted to make that point first, which is mental fortitude is different to knowing how your body operates and risking injury. So going back to the injury point, nobody wants to risk injury, but I suppose it comes back to my point that Lazarus Lake made, which is there has to be a risk of something going wrong for you to ever achieve something. If you never did anything because you're worried about your knees or your ankles or your muscles, something happening to your muscles, I'm not a doctor, I don't know what happens. If you don't risk that, you're never going to achieve anything. Now, I get hundreds of comments on my videos over the 5 years I've been doing this, with people telling me that because I run and I'm big, I'm going to mess up my knees and I'm going to damage my ankles. I made a video fairly recently about running a marathon barefoot. not actually barefoot. I had shoes on, but they were barefoot shoes. That's the terminology used to describe them. They're completely flat. They have minimal contact between your sole of your foot and the floor, and they're completely zero drop. I got loads of comments. Some of them I've removed because they're going to put people off wanting to try new things, and some of those comments were just going at me for the damage I'm going to do to my body. I ran that marathon distance in the barefoot shoes, absolutely fine, and I enjoyed it more than wearing cushioned shoes. I felt 100 times better the next day than I would do normally after running a marathon. I mean, I was feeling it, but I didn't feel it anywhere near as much as I would do if I wore super cushioned shoes. So I think there needs to be a balance struck. Now, I'm not saying that anyone should go out and wear barefoot shoes to run a marathon, but I think we need to think about what it is that we say to ourselves as reasons for why we can't do things. And my point here, I suppose, is you need to balance up the benefits you're going to get by eating healthier, by exercising well, and when I say well, by having a structure, following a training plan, doing things the way you know will work for you, and that only comes from experience. Having that benefit, the mental health benefits, the physical benefits, the ability to be able to walk up a set of stairs without being out of breath, the longevity you're going to have in regards to doing more of it, and also the fact that you're probably extending your life expectancy because healthier people live longer, apparently, according to scientists. All of those benefits must outweigh the risk of a knee injury or an ankle injury. If you suffer with something in particular, if you've actually got a medical condition, if you've got something which is wrong, then of course you need to mitigate against that. I'm not saying that you should go out and smash a gym session or, you know, do a high intensity training session on Zwift or go for a marathon run in barefoot shoes if you have something that you know is going to get agitated or aggravated on the back of that. And I certainly wouldn't recommend running or cycling injured. And that leads me on to my next point, which is recovery. Recovery. Oh my God, I'm about to talk about recovery with a microphone in front of me publicly. I am the last person you want to listen to when it comes to recovery. I do not take enough time to recover. I've been known to run pretty much every day until I burn out. And I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. I don't know when to stop. I don't know when to relax. I don't know when to switch off. That's just probably my unbalanced approach to fitness. However, having said that, I do know after I do big events that I do need to take a day or two to recover from it. And what I mean by that is you need to give time for your body to recuperate. Now, the best thing for that is sleep. I always say this. People talk about recovery and they think that recovery is just lying on the sofa, eating a packet of crisps, watching a Netflix series. That's not what I'm talking about. Sleep. Sleep is the best thing you can do for your body. It recharges everything, mentally and physically. Your body recovers when it's asleep more so than it would do just lying on the sofa. Recovery also comes not just from sleep, but also from recovery exercise. Very often, probably not the day after, but very often after I've run an ultra marathon, after I've run a marathon distance, after I've had a big old race on Zwift or a big ride. I did 100k up out to Zwift fairly recently on Zwift. I did a 64k bike ride last Friday after I'm recording this. The next day I'll, rest up. The bike ride wasn't so bad actually. I felt really good the next day. But after I've done a big ultra marathon, the next day I will rest up. I'll spend it, sat on the sofa, eating crisps and watching Netflix series because I've burnt so many calories, I can pretty much eat what I want for the next 24 hours without worrying. What I will do is maybe a day after that, so 2 days after I've done a big event, I will go out for a small 5k run. I will go out for a small bike ride now. I didn't before because I never rode a bike before, but I will now because it frees up some of those muscles. A good example of this, I did the Yorkshire Three Peaks again for the third time with my daughter carrying a 45-pound burden, and it was really, really hard. One of the things I found the hardest was I wasn't able to go at a faster pace because I had a 14-year-old with me who had never done it before, so I had to go at her pace, understandably. I said that in a way that made it sound like I was really annoyed about it. Understandably, I went at her pace. However, the consequence of that was I was spent a lot longer on my legs and with this backpack on my back than I probably would have done if I had done it on my own. And that meant that my calf muscles, when I finished, were screaming because of the climbing. And then the next day, I really, really felt it. My calf muscles in particular, everything else was fine, but my calf muscles were on fire. And when I walked up the stairs, I was walking up the stairs like I was a toddler, flat-footed and trying not to bend my knees, so as I was using the muscles at the top of my legs rather than the bottom of my legs because they were hurting so much. And it carried on like this for 2 days after I did Yorkshire Three Peaks. And it really annoyed me because I thought to myself, well, you know, I've done 100k ultra marathons and never felt this sore. So I just went out for a walk, and as I was walking, I thought this is loosening up, and then I went for a run. It was only a 2k run, I think I did. Very, very short run. Just put my shoes on, my running trainers, and just went for a very, very short run after I did some walking. And I felt 100 times better. My legs almost immediately loosened up. My muscles that were tight weren't tight anymore. And then after a really, really good night's sleep, the next day I woke up and I was fine. So obviously my muscles just needed stretching out, whereas I think in the past that would have lingered on for a lot longer than it did. So it's kind of knowing the difference between how my body normally feels versus post-exercise fatigue and injury. And then last year I had an injury which I thought was more serious than it actually was, where I went on a spin bike in a gym messing about for absolutely no reason other than just because I was bored. And I spun up and sprinted on this spin bike, and it didn't have the stopping resistance. So, you know, on a indoor trainer, when you sprint on Zwift or, you know, indoor trainers, when you sprint and stop immediately, the pedals stop, but the bike obviously has the internal mechanisms that allows it to keep going like you would do on a normal bike. On this spin bike, it didn't have that. So when I sprinted, so dropped, you know, 2,000 watts because there was no meter, so why not? When I dropped those watts and stopped, the pedals kept going and I didn't realise. And then I managed to get one foot out, but my other foot got caught and it overextended. And I pulled all the muscles in my Achilles and in my heel and my ankle. And the pain, oh my God, the pain was unbearable. I genuinely, and I'm pretty good with pain and I'm pretty good with muscle problems and hurting and etc. So yeah, the pain was unbearable. I genuinely thought I might have broken something, so I actually ended up going to A&E. Now it wasn't broken, thank God, but I did do myself muscle injury. I'd overextended the muscles. The doctor did a scan. Annoyingly, I had a half marathon. I had the Royal Parks half marathon, which I was really looking forward to the day after. So in my own stupidity, I managed to wreck and ruin an event that I was really much looking forward to. Some injuries are self-inflicted and you can avoid them. So avoidable injuries, yeah, I never done that again. I'm not going to jump on a bike and risk it. For example, I've got the London to Brighton bike ride this weekend, and I'm making a point of not doing anything risky today, tomorrow, and the day after. I've got it in 3 days. Today's Thursday. I've got Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to get through before I reach the start line Sunday morning. I've decided I'm not going to do anything risky. So that means I'm not going to go out on my bike today, tomorrow, or Saturday, because I'm not very good and I need stabilizers. So I'm not going to risk falling and hurting myself. And I'm going to take the time not to risk it. So that's another example of how you can mitigate against unnecessary injury. So the doctors have said your knees are fine, which is always good. It's just the muscles, they've had a rough time in your enthusiastic efforts on Zwift. So look, this comes back to my point, which is do what you need to do, put the effort in where you need to put it in. But whatever you've done that's caused your muscle discomfort, maybe ease off on that. I don't know. I'm really not someone that can give advice on this. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a fitness expert. I'm the opposite of someone who knows what they're doing when it comes to fitness. And I'm really, really not very good at giving advice because I'm not someone who takes it very well. I'm the first person that will push himself past the point of no return. So yeah, so I think I've answered your question, William. It's a really good question. It's a hard one to answer. It really is a hard one to answer. And they're always good questions if it's hard to answer because it makes me think. Have I had setbacks? Of course I've had setbacks, but that's all they are, setbacks. You always overcome them. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I've got more respect for someone that's been through the ring and come out the other side fitter, hungrier, stronger, faster than they were before they entered the ring. So yeah, respect for you for making the change and for doing what you're doing. I think it's great. I'm pleased to hear that you're back on Zwift and your body is cooperating with you again. So yeah. Awesome work. Well done. Next question. Okay. So this is a question from Honor-Tech Mike on YouTube. So first, congratulations. I can't say that enough. You're a fantastic role model and your humble, honest approach is refreshing. So these are the questions he's asked. How do you keep motivated and not regress? What's your secret to success when so many others have failed? How can others implement what you've learned or accomplished? Firstly, thank you for asking this question. I really appreciate that. I'm pleased to hear you find me humble and honest. That's all I can be, because I don't know what I'm doing. So I've got to go with the humble and honest approach, because I would be a snake oil salesman with anything else, and I really don't want to be that. So questions. How do you keep motivated and not regress? So this is a hard question. I mean, I'm saying that about all of the questions. They are really, really good questions. How do you keep motivated and not regress? This is a tough one. It's a good question. I'm a firm believer that motivation is probably 99% of all success within fitness and weight loss journeys. I mean, without motivation, you just can't achieve anything. Motivation comes in the form of anything really that keeps you moving forward. And that's the key to this, just relentless forward progress. I mentioned this in episode 1 of this series, where I talked a lot about my happy place. I talked a lot about the movie Hook and the Lost Boys telling Robin Williams' Peter Pan in the movie Hook. It's such a good movie. If you haven't seen Hook, watch it with your kids, because then you don't feel like such a loser watching it on your own. But yeah, it's such a good movie. And they talk about happy place, and that kind of resonated with me. Doing something for the sake of doing it will never be motivation. The novelty will wear off. So going for a run because you want to see what going for a run is like is great. Get out there, you're moving, you're exercising. However, when the novelty of running, and it will run out very, very quickly, when the novelty of running runs out, when that wears off, you will stop and go, why the hell am I doing this? I want to see what running's like. That's not motivation anymore. That will very, very quickly stop. But if your motivation is because you want to lose weight and get fit for yourself, extend your life expectancy, for your family, you've got a big race coming up and you want to smash it. One of the biggest things for me was, I remember long before I decided to go on this journey, quit alcohol, go vegan, start to lose weight, and exercise. Long before that, I remember walking up a set of stairs in an office block where I worked, and I got to the top and I had to sit down because I was exhausted. It wasn't even that high. I think it was like a flight. So it wasn't like I was climbing to the top of a tower block. It was literally, I think, from the ground floor to the first floor, maybe even the second, if I want to kind of claw back some self-respect. And I got to the top of that set of stairs and I had to sit down, and people thought I was having a panic attack. I wasn't. I was just out of breath. But I was just absolutely gassed. And I remember thinking, this is pathetic. I'm not even 40 and I can't walk up 2 flights of stairs. So that for me was a big motivator to fix my health. Once I'd reached the point where I could walk up 2 flights of stairs, I then had to realign my expectations, or my reason, my happy place. And that then became, I wanted to be a better version of me. I'd never had, in my entire life, I've never had a peak fitness period. So most people in their 20s, early 20s, mid 20s, footballers, for example, that's their peak. That's when they're physically at their strongest, their fastest. I never had any of that. I was massively overweight from pretty much my mid-teens. And as I got older, that just got worse and worse. And when I discovered alcohol, that was game over. So how did I not regress? I kept focused. I kept pushing myself. This is an easy one to answer, actually, because this goes back to the quote that I said at the beginning of this episode. If you're going to face a real challenge, it has to be a real challenge. You can't accomplish anything without the possibility of failure. How do I not regress? I keep signing up to crazy challenges that I know will scare me. And if I don't train for them, I will literally die on that course. So what motivates me to get up in the morning and get on Zwift, the London to Brighton bike ride? Because I want to complete it in a good time. What motivates me to get up and go for a run? Signing up for Race of the Stones or the Thames Path Ultra 100k that I've got this summer. I've also got a 55k next week, which I haven't really trained properly for. And I'm hoping that Zwift has helped me train for a long run. Anyway, that's how I don't regress. I keep myself challenged and I keep myself pressured, healthy pressure, that I can control. As soon as that pressure changes, and I used to say this about work, I will work 12, 13, 14-hour days through choice, if it's my choice. If my boss ever turned around to me and said, you're not going home at your set contracted hours, you need to stay to 12 hours, 14 hours, I'd tell him to do one. As long as I've got control over why I'm choosing to do something that pushes me, I don't mind doing it. As soon as that pressure changes, i.e. someone else is forcing me to do something I don't want to do, someone else is taking the time away from me that puts me under time restraints and, I haven't got control anymore, that's where I think the balance of control changes and the pressure becomes unhealthy pressure. And I think that if you're in that place, you will regress, you will regret what you're doing. Your motivation isn't the reason you've chosen that motivation. And it has to be under your control. It has to be something you want to do, not under someone else's timescales, not under someone else's remits, not because someone else is forcing you. My partner Tracy refuses to come and do some events with me because she knows I'm going to push her. Now, we did a 10K run together. She treats exercise and fitness in a very, very different way to how I do it. I push for the finish line in the fastest possible time that I can go for it. I am massively motivated, I am incredibly competitive, and I am very outspoken about it. She's very different. She goes into it and wants to have fun. That's it. She has no aspirations for wanting to beat any PBs. She just wants to run for fun. And as soon as that fun wears off, because ultimately she doesn't do a lot of running and, exhaustion and tiredness and cardio kicks in, she then just keeps going because she's a strong character. She's strong-willed. But that's why she doesn't do it the day after and the day after and the day after, because she does it for fun. When I'm there screaming at her, not screaming, but she says this, when I'm there pushing her, it changes the dynamic of why she's doing it, and it's no longer under her remit. It's no longer under her control. She's got a very different relationship to fitness and health. She's naturally a very fit person. She does a lot of strength training and stretching within her job. She's a gymnastics coach. So she's naturally a very fit person and she's very active. She just doesn't do a lot of running. So when I'm out there and I'm going for it, I can now outrun her. If she ran, I reckon within 4 park runs, if she did 4 park runs, I reckon she could catch up with me and pass me in speed, ability and endurance. As simple as that. That's how fit she is, naturally fit she is. She just doesn't do any training, so it means I'm now faster than her, which I have never been in my life, so I enjoy it, much to the dismay of my family when I mention it. My point is, her relationship with exercise is about fun, and I think you need to have that. You need to enjoy what you're doing. What is your secret to success when so many others have failed? I don't know anyone that's failed. I don't know whether you're talking about yourself or people you know when you ask this question. I'm going to remove the failed bit because I don't really see anyone trying to do anything as failure. Trying to lose weight and getting fit isn't something that has a finish line. It's like a conveyor belt in a factory. As soon as that one box comes off the end, another box will come on. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. I don't know whether they've improved it with technology now, but it used to take 12 years for a team of men to paint the Golden Gate Bridge. They'd start at one end. By the time they've reached the other end, 12 years later, they'd have to start again. The paint on the beginning was 12 years old, so it has to start again. It was a constant flow. There would never be a finish or an end. It's the same with this. Even though you may reach the goal you set yourself. Now, I set myself, when I weighed 190 kg or 30 stone, I set myself the target of being sub 20 stone. And it took me ages to reach it. But when I reached it, I didn't want to stop. I'd reached sub 20 and I was like, okay, this isn't the end. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the fittest. I'm certainly not the lightest I can be. So I'm going to see, this has worked so far. Everything I'm doing hasn't failed. I'm moving in the right direction. I'm going to keep going. Yeah, the journey, it's a journey, because probably the term journey is the wrong analogy, is the wrong term to use, because a journey will have a destination. And I don't think this does have a destination, because even if you become, which I never will be, but even if you become the fastest marathon runner, world record holder, Kipchoge is an example of this. He set the first man on earth to set a sub 2 hour marathon time. He hasn't quit. He hasn't retired. He hasn't stopped and gone, well, that's it, guys. I've done it. No one's going to beat that for a long time until they invent bionic legs. I'm stopping. He hasn't said that. He's pushing for other boundaries. There's other things he wants to achieve. It's the same with this. This is a journey that you're on that never has a destination. You never arrive. As long as you're moving forward, you can never fail. Now, of course, you have bad days. I have bad days. I have bad weeks. I sometimes, occasionally, even have bad months. But for it to reach a month's length, it has to be a particularly bad month. And the causes of that normally isn't to do with my fitness or my motivation. It's normally to do with external influences, problems that happen that I can't control. So when that does happen, I separate the fact that I know I can't control that control the controllables, and I keep moving forward. And as long as I'm moving forward, that's all that matters. Relentless forward progress, one foot in front of the other. When you walk or run an ultra marathon distance, you reach a point where everything else is just white noise. The only thing on your mind is getting to the finish line. You can think about food, you can think about motivation, you can think about music, you can think about your favorite movies to keep you motivated, you can think about your loved ones, you can make phone calls. All of that pales into insignificance. When you're on the start line, you think about time, you think about cadence, you think about pace. You think about all these things that a runner would think about when they're about to set out off on a 100k run. You will reach a point, and that point could be 50k, 60k, 70k, however far into the run. You will reach a point where you don't care about cadence anymore. You don't care about time anymore. You don't care about pace. The only thing you care about is the finish line and reaching it no matter what. And when that happens, when that mindset kicks in, you completely drown everything else out. And the only thing that matters to you is your motivation. Short-term motivation, finish line, long-term motivation, how awesome you're going to feel 1 week later after you've recovered from this ordeal you've put yourself through, and how proud you're going to be of your accomplishments. One foot in front of the other. When you're at that 70k mark, 80k mark, and you know that you haven't got far to go, but it's far enough for it not to be easy, the only thing you think about is putting one foot in front of the other. That's it. That's all you can do. You can't do any more, whether that be a run, a shuffle, a walk, or a crawl. Just putting one foot in front of the other. It's the same when it comes to your weight loss and fitness goals. When you reach a point where you're struggling and you're feeling that you're failing, which you're probably not, because if you're motivated, you're never failing, just put one foot in front of the other. That's it. However that looks, whatever that looks like, even if that's just get yourself up off the sofa because you've had a week on the sofa and you've done nothing, just get up off the sofa, get dressed, have a shower, not in that order because that would be weird, and go out for a walk. That's it. One foot in front of the other. Then tomorrow, do the same again and turn that walk into a shuffle. Then the day after that, do the same again, turn that walk into a slow zone 1 run. Then the day after that, make that a little bit longer. Then the day after that, make it a zone 2 run, etc., etc. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Give yourself a break, be kind to yourself, and when you fall off the wagon, don't quit. Just get yourself back up, dust yourself off, and go again. How can others implement what you've learnt and accomplished? I have no idea. Do not copy anyone you see online. Do what you know will work for you. If you enjoy running, join a park run. That's one of the best things I ever did. It's one of the best bits of advice I can give to anyone. If you want to learn how to run, go to a park run. Because I tell you now, you will not be the slowest there. I promise you. Even 30 stone me, if I had gone to a park run, actually it's probably a bit extreme. I probably couldn't have outwalked most people. I would have been last. Okay, assuming you're not 30 stone, turn up at a park run and I promise you won't be last. Even if you walk it, you'll beat someone. And if you're not bothered about beating anyone, it doesn't matter because not a single person there cares what position you come in. You'll enjoy it. I love park runs. If you're not into running or walking, go for a bike ride. Go for a swim. Just do something that keeps moving you forward. And if you're on the start of that journey, then one thing leads to another, which is what happened with me. I never thought in a million years I'd own an indoor trainer, I'd own a bike, I'd be signing up to a London to Brighton bike ride. I hated cycling when I first attempted it. Absolutely dreaded it. I made a video about am I a Zwifter or am I a runner on my YouTube channel, and I'll talk a little bit about this in there. So if you're interested in knowing more, please go and watch that video because I think you'll enjoy it. But I never thought in a million years that I would be into Zwifting or cycling. One thing leads to another. My running, my events that I signed up to, my training specifically because I wanted to become better at running, meant that I thought, do you know what, I'm going to get something that I can do indoors when it's raining and cold outside. And that's where I got into Zwifting. Okay, next question. This question is from Kieran Devitt. I hope I've said your name correctly, Kieran. Great achievement and I love your videos. Plan to get a Zwift set up soon because of your videos. Both you and Mark Lewis are GOATs. Question, have you experienced any surprising or unexpected benefits from your weight loss? Some element of your youth you forgot you had or whatever. That's how he's put it. So first off, I love Mark Lewis's videos. I think he's a fantastic YouTuber and some of his messages are absolutely on point. I love the journey he's been through. He's been through, I want to say similar, you know, he's on his own journey. So yeah, love his videos. Appreciate you asking this question, Kieran, and I'm pleased you enjoy my videos. It's great to hear you're going to get yourself a Zwift set up. Zwift should employ me as part of their marketing department. I could do more for them than their own marketing department probably could at the moment, I think. But I might make a future episode about Zwift. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, because I love Zwift. I think Zwift is fantastic. Have you experienced any surprising or unexpected benefits from your weight loss? Yes, I have. I've been, not surprising, because I knew that losing weight was a means to an end. I knew that if I had lost enough weight that I could go from walking to shuffling, and then ultimately from shuffling to running, I knew that would allow me to go out and train and it take less time. So when I first started on this journey, I walked every day. I mean, I started off by walking to the end of my road, then to my park, then around the park, and eventually I was walking anything up to 10 miles a day. But 10 miles would take me in excess of 3 hours, and I was just losing 3 hours a day doing exercise. And I thought if I could run 10 miles eventually, which I couldn't do from the beginning, if I could run 10 miles, then I can get that down to, you know, sub 3 hours. That's what I aimed for, and that was the unexpected benefit. That obviously then led on to me wanting to run the London Marathon, which is one of my series on my YouTube channel. I ran the London Marathon because that was an ambition of mine. I had that on my bucket list. It was always something I wanted to do, and it was probably the only fitness goal I've ever had. From a young age, I remember watching a friend run the London Marathon and thinking that they were amazing and wanting to replicate it when I was a teenager. I never did because, you know, fear of change. But I used to live in southeast London on the London Marathon route. My mum and dad still live there. I used to go and watch it every single year. I used to just walk through the park and stand there and watch it over the bridge. And it was amazing. It was an amazing event. And that's what it led on to. It led on to me being able to run the London Marathon. This question comes from Jessica or Jessie Cat on YouTube. Was switching to a vegan diet so that you could actually end up eating less overall in a meal, or were there other reasons? Easier for portion control, harder to snack. Curious how it changed your eating habits. Really, really good question. Okay, so obviously I turned vegan quite early on. The main reason for it started off as a bit of a challenge, really. We did it as a family because my oldest daughter wanted to do it for animal welfare reasons, and I wanted to support her. This was about 4 years ago now. I think we've been vegan for about just over 4 years. It was a big change, and I was a bit hesitant. I did it as a challenge in the same way that I ran for the first time to see how it would go, and if it didn't work out, I wouldn't do it anymore. And it was actually really hard initially because I was a big meat eater. The weird thing is, quitting meat wasn't the hardest bit. Quitting meat was actually one of the easiest things to do. The hardest thing is to find food that doesn't have milk or egg in it. And most food in the supermarket has a form of milk or egg, whether it be dry and powdered or whether it actually be, you know, milk and egg as we would expect to see it. That's the biggest challenge as a vegan, finding food that doesn't have those two ingredients. Turning vegan had no impact on us eating less in a meal. That's all to do with portion control. You know, I could have the best vegan meals from a vegan cookbook. I can make the best meals there. If I make double the amount that it recommends in the cookbook, I'm going to have a big meal. So yeah, it makes no difference to the overall meal size or portion control. So being vegan doesn't make it harder to snack. There are plenty of vegan snacks out there. Most crisps are vegan. Did you know that Walker's salt and vinegar, they're vegan? Most people think they have milk in them. They don't. This blew my mind. Prawn cocktail. Prawn cocktail crisps, most brands, including supermarket owned brands, are vegan. Prawn cocktail. Like, there's no prawns. There's no shellfish at all in prawn cocktail crisps. It's all flavour and preservatives and chemicals. So yeah, is it harder to snack? No, not at all. You can snack just as hard as a vegan as you can do as a non-vegan. Interestingly, turning vegan, what it did do, this is the biggest impact it had. It turned me into an amateur nutritionist because it was really hard to find vegan food that had no milk or egg ingredients. It meant that you had to read the back of every packet, and not everything that you assumed would be vegan. So I thought that all corn was vegan, Quorn. Some of it is, but not all of it. So for example, corn nuggets, they're vegetarian. They've got egg in them. So they're not vegan, and I have to read the back. I remember making a meal for the family, and it was a spaghetti bolognese with fake mince, as I call it, and it was corn mince. I bought corn mince. That's not vegan. Corn plant-based mince has egg in it, and I didn't read the back of the packet. So since then, because I wasted all that. I made the whole meal and we couldn't eat it. I had to throw the food away. Even the cat wouldn't eat it because it wasn't meat. So I had to throw it away, and it was a waste of food. And I hate wasting food. So we had to read the back of packets. Tracy's really good. She's become an expert in what food we can and can't eat. I still have to read the packets for fear of getting it wrong, but it has turned me. And when you read the back of a packet, when you read the back of any packet that you buy in the supermarket, even bread was the biggest thing that blew my mind. Do you know how many ingredients are in long life bread? When anything that you buy off the shelf that you expect to last in your kitchen that's not freshly baked, anything that comes in a packet, there is a list as long as your arm of ingredients in bread. Like, how many ingredients can be in bread? Now, the reason why there's so many ingredients is to make it long life, to make it last on your shelf, to make it so as it doesn't go stale. But then you're consuming those ingredients, and I started questioning what it was that I was actually eating. And loads of food that we used to eat when we first turned vegan, loads of processed food, loads of processed fake meat, as I call it, which is mostly soya beans and mushrooms that are condensed down, in itself is fine. Soya beans, mushrooms are my friend. I love mushrooms. I eat mushrooms now instead of meat. Big juicy mushrooms, put them in a bolognese with some sauce and spaghetti and big off the vine tomatoes. That's my favourite food. Get some shiitake mushrooms and make a curry. Get yourself a vegan curry sauce, which most curry sauces are in the supermarket. Really, really easy. Most of that is vegan. Make your own one, and then you know what's going in it. Make your own sauce. Put some shiitake mushrooms in it. Oh my God, shiitake mushrooms are so good. But you end up becoming a bit of a amateur nutritionist, and you understand what goes into food. And then when you realise what you're putting into your body, I started questioning what we were eating. So a lot of the things that we were eating in the early days, we no longer eat anymore. That was the biggest change from being vegan. According to the NHS website, a man of my size should be consuming about 2,500 calories a day. Now, I can eat 2,500 calories of sweets. I could eat 2,500 calories of lettuce. I mean, I don't think I could, because lettuce is pretty much just water. But I could eat all of this and not have what I need to be able to operate. But I'm still eating 2,500 calories. It doesn't make any difference. Did you know that Oreos are vegan? And Oreos look like the milkiest biscuit on the shelf. They're vegan. I could eat 2,500 calories of Oreos, 2,500 calories of vegan ice cream. It's not going to give me the nutritional value that I need. So does it make it harder to snack? No. Does it mean that I have a smaller meal portion? Of course not, because I can still serve myself up double everybody else, and I'm eating more calories. What it did do was it made us educate ourselves, forced us to educate ourselves on what we were eating, because if we got it wrong, we'd accidentally end up not being vegan anymore. And there's loads of things that you'd think would be vegan that aren't. Being vegan's really easy now. I will say, just want to touch on this. I am going to make an episode about being vegan, by the way. But being vegan is really, really easy now in 2024. There are literally whole aisles dedicated to non-animal products. You know, plant-based products. It's so easy. You know, there's an entire month a year, Veganuary, where manufacturers come out with things just for Veganuary, and then that leads on to them keeping it because it's been so successful. It's very, very easy now to be vegan. Okay, next question. This is from Alan Turnbull. Thank you, Alan, for this question. Amazing Ryan, do you have a target weight you'd like to be, or just when your food intake exercise level reaches a natural balance and be somewhere in the healthy range? So, no, I don't have a target weight. I did have a target weight, I've mentioned already, which was to be sub 20 stone. That was 2 years ago now. I am now, what do I weigh now? Let me just quickly check. I don't know what it is in stone. So I now weigh 94.6 kg in stone is, so 94.6 kg in stone is just under 15 stone. So I weigh 14.8 stone. Do I have a target weight? No. Now, I will say, in the interest of transparency and sharing, I mean, this is my podcast, so I can pretty much talk about whatever I want, but I've not been very good at sharing this because, if I'm honest with you, it's embarrassing. I've lost so much weight that I have quite a lot of loose skin, and I still have fat around my stomach area that I'd like to lose. Because it's all become loose and jiggly and uncomfortable when I run. It feels like I'm potentially wearing a bodysuit sometimes that I'd like to remove. Even though I've become so much leaner and so much stronger, I can feel muscle definition in my legs that I never had before. My legs are like the strongest they've ever been. It's amazing when I catch myself in the mirror or I see a picture of myself and I think, damn, my legs look jacked. And I'm so pleased to have that feeling, because that's a feeling I've never had before. That's amazing. That's where I know that I'm doing the right thing. Have I reached a point where I'm at my target weight? No. My target weight will be when I feel comfortable in my exercise ability. So when I'm able to run a park run and I can keep pushing myself to a better time. When I'm able to run a marathon sub 4 hour, that would be phenomenal. I'd love to get a sub 4 hour marathon and I'd probably be happy with that. When I'm able to win a Cat C race on Zwift, to win a Cat C race, I need to have 3 watts per kg to be able to achieve that. I'm saying that cautiously because I've only just stepped up to C and I am being dropped like a hot potato at the moment. The good thing is, and I will say this massive caveat to anyone listening to this, I'm at a point where I'm able to talk like this. There is no way in a million years, 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago when I started on this journey, that I would even consider getting to 13 stone. Now, I will say that when I did my BMI check, it does say that my height and my age, I should be 13 stone. And I never believed that in a million years because I remember thinking to myself, if I weighed 13 stone, I'd look ill. And that's what everyone said to me, and I believed that nonsense. Now that I'm nearly 13 stone, or now that I'm not nearly 13 stone, now that I can achieve 13 stone with the right focus, training plan, then would I be able to achieve that? 100% I can achieve that. I would never have been able to do it before though. That's the caveat. So everything in moderation. Realign your expectations. When I weighed 30 stone, was I looking at 13 stone as my target? 100% not. That would have been ridiculous. My target when I was 30 stone was to get below 25. When I reached below 25, which by the way, when you weigh 30 stone, you have loads and loads to lose. Think about it as a massive bucket of water. When that bucket of water is filled to the brim and it's really, really heavy, as soon as you pick it up and turn it, you're going to lose loads of water immediately. And the more water that leaves the bucket, the slower the trickle becomes. I got below 25 stone very, very quickly, like within a year. And to go from sub 25 stone to sub 20 stone, that's what took about, I think that took about 3 years to get to under 20 stone because it became a trickle and I had to do more to lose weight. I remember going out for a long walk, when I was like, I think I was about 27, 26 stone, and I burnt 2,000 calories because I weighed so much. Tracy came on that 10k run with me, and I still weigh, what do I weigh now? What did I say I weighed? I still weigh 14 something stone. I ran it, and I burnt, I think it was 600 calories, 700 calories on that 10k run. She ran it, and she's a slight thing. She weighs next to nothing. She ran it, and she burned 200 calories. 200 calories, that's a Soreen bar. She could literally eat a cereal bar and put more calories back on than she had burnt running 10k. Weight is a funny thing, and I'm definitely happy of where I am, over the moon where I am. I wouldn't change what I've got now for the world. But do I want more? Of course I want more. Next question. Dan Riley asked this question on YouTube. Strange question. Always a good way to start. This is how he's written it. Strange question. Not too sure how to phrase it, but I mean well. Do the wife and kids see you at half your weight and think you'll stop the journey and they'll get time back with you? I mean, it must take a lot of time and effort to do what you do in around work. And I do like the way you involve the family. It's inspiring to see. Do you ever see yourself reaching a point of contentment? I really enjoy the content and you've clearly given yourself a new lease of life and added years onto it, which is good to see. So it's a question I don't really want to know the answer to, but is there an end point for you, a finish line in your journey? Hoping not. So, okay, Dan, I did answer the one about my wife and kids in the last episode. So if you'd like to know the answer to that one, go and listen to that episode because I go into that in quite a lot of detail. Pre-2018, I drank a lot and I had a really unhealthy relationship with food. I wasn't very healthy. I was always tired, mainly because I drank a lot. And I had a really stressful corporate career, which took up a lot of time. I was working 12, 13, 14-hour days. So when I was home, I was on the phone, I was on my emails, I was taking phone calls, I was responding to messages, I was doing FaceTime, I was doing Zoom meetings, and that's when I was at home. Most of my time I was spent out of the house in work. The missus and the kids didn't really see me. And then when I wasn't working, weekends, late evenings, I was drinking. So I wasn't engaged with the family. Since I've stopped all that, given all of that up, left that horrendously stressful corporate career, gone completely teetotal, I don't drink anymore, I have so much more energy, I'm engaged with my family. When I spend time with them, I make a point of spending time with them. I watch the movies they want to watch, even if it is Disney. You know, they've got the time that we spend together, even though I'm out running and cycling and Zwifting and making YouTube videos and making podcast episodes. Even when I'm doing this, they know that I'm there for them when push comes to shove, and they've got that time with me. So we also run a family business, and we spend a lot of time together in that business. My biggest regret is not doing this sooner. Do you see yourself reaching a point of contentment? I'm at that point now. I'm so much happier than I've ever been in my entire life, and I'm making more YouTube videos, more podcast episodes. I'm doing more around content creation than I've ever done before. So if that was your concern, I'd stop making videos. I wouldn't worry, because I think I'm probably going to ramp it up, if anything. I really enjoy your content, and you've clearly given yourself a new lease of life and added years on. I appreciate that. Thank you. So it's a question really I don't want to know the answer to, but is there an end for you, a finish line in your journey? No, there isn't. There isn't a finish line. I mean, without sounding too deep and meaningful, the only great adventure, I'm quoting Hook again. I need to watch this movie. The only great adventure is death. That's very deep. Captain Hook said that in the movie Hook. Next question. This comes from GP2580. Catchy YouTube title. First, let me say I have huge respect for your commitment, your progress, and your massively entertaining and inspirational videos. Nevertheless, my approach to a diet is the polar opposite to yours. I'm carnivore and keto. I lost 8 stone on this diet, from 19.5 stone down to 11 stone. So my question is, are you aware that science is linking high carb diet to insulin levels and progressive insulin resistance? No, I'm not. I'm not aware. I have absolutely no idea what you mean, if I'm honest. I don't have a high carb diet per se. I do crack jokes in my videos about eating my body weight in pasta, and I do eat more carbs than I would do normally going into a big event. When you run 100k, which is, I've got 2 events this year which are going to be 100k. I have an event next week which is 55k. I've got the London to Brighton, which I think is 54 miles in 3 days. When I enter into these events, I eat more carbs because that's what my body burns for fuel, and I don't want it using my reserves, which I need for endurance further on in the event. When I've reached halfway, 50k in an ultra marathon, and I've got another 50k to go, no matter what I eat, I'm burning. And I need to eat something that is worth burning. There's no point me eating nothing because I'm worried about insulin levels. So, yeah, I don't really have the knowledge to be able to answer this. What I would say, and this is probably the best way in which I can answer this for other people listening to this, I can find a study that says anything about anything. I can find a statistic to prove statistics are wrong. I can find a scientific study that says that being a carnivore and being on a keto diet is bad for you. That doesn't mean eating meat and watching your carbs is a bad thing. It just means that moderation in moderation. Okay, next question. This comes from Rune Killer. Rune Killer. I like that. Do you also weight train or only cardio, cycling and running? I only do cardio. I used to weight train. I went to the gym. I had a gym membership for ages, went to the gym quite obsessively for a while, but it got in the way of running and cycling. The 2 hours I would spend on a daily basis out running or cycling, I spent in the gym, and I had to have a balance between that, and I didn't really know how to strike it, so I quit the gym, if I'm honest. So I kind of gave up on that. I might return to it. I'd be interested to know people's thoughts on this. I might return to it. I'd like to tone up. I've lost so much weight that I would like to, I don't want a 6-pack. I've got no interest in getting a 6-pack. I don't want to be able to bench press 300 pounds or whatever other people put on YouTube and Instagram that are able to do. I'm not interested in that. One of the things, actually, this comes back to an earlier question about one of the benefits I've been able to notice since losing weight. I can now do 10 push-ups. Now, that sounds ridiculous. Most people can do push-ups, right? I assume they can. I've never been able to do a push-up ever in my life. I've always weighed too much to be able to do a push-up, and I've had 0 upper body strength. I've now, because of Zwifting and running and whatever else I've done, all my weight loss, I can do 10 push-ups, and I was so proud of that. And I only found out by accident because the other day my daughter in work decided to do some push-ups, and she asked me to try, and I did, and I can do 10 push-ups. I'm really proud of that. Next question from DP Speedy. Now that you've got a road bike, are you tempted to do some of the real world Zwift climbs like Alpe d'Huez or Mont Ventoux? Yes, I would love to climb the real Alpe d'Huez, which I know is Alpe d'Huez is based on. I would love to go and do Mont Ventoux. That would be amazing. And funnily enough, we were talking about this the other day about doing a biking holiday. Well, I would do a biking holiday. My family would come and just enjoy the south of France, I suppose. But yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd really like someone to sponsor me and pay for it. That would be amazing. Next question. This comes from Gixar 750 Pilot. Calorie restriction versus exercise for long-term weight loss, and what's next? So yeah, this is a really good question. It was one that I actually spent quite a long time talking about in my last episode. So if you would like to have a deep dive into the answer for this, please listen to episode 1 of this series. Calorie restriction versus exercise for long-term weight loss. They both work and both don't work in equal measure. So calorie restriction massively worked for me. It works for me if I'm trying to lose weight for a particular reason. I will watch my calories, keep myself below a certain number that I know I will burn throughout the day, and yeah, weight will fall off. It's as simple as that. There's no point me going for a 500 calorie park run, enjoy it, get the mental health benefits from it, which is a huge part of fitness. It's not just about weight loss. For me, fitness has now become about the mental health aspects, the benefit of overcoming a really hard challenge. It's not about weight loss anymore for me. To a certain extent it is, but not hugely. The mental health benefits are huge, but there's no point me going for a 500 calorie park run and then going to McDonald's on the way home and having a Big Mac meal with 6 nuggets, because I'm just going to have wasted all of that, feel crap because the food is awful. And yeah, that's kind of my answer. What's next? More of the same, really. I've got big events this year coming up. I've got London to Brighton in 3 days. I've got a 55k London Path ultramarathon. I loved it last year. I did the London, it's called London Ultra. It's 55k from Woolwich to Richmond Park, and it's through some of the back streets and trails of London. I didn't know London had trails. Did you know that London have footpaths through southeast London, up through Crystal Palace, all the way to Richmond Park? And they are phenomenal. They're really, really good urban trails and footpaths. They're so much fun to run on. I mean, it is like running through the woods, but instead of trees, you have houses. So good. So I'm really looking forward to that. Then I have the Fan Dance, which is a 24 to 26k route march over Penny Fan. So Penny Fan is 800 meters high. It's going to be one of the hardest challenges I'm going to complete. And then to add to that, I've got to carry a 45-pound Bergen to complete it. It's an SAS selection test that's been created to replicate the SAS selection test for civilians like me. So I'm really looking forward to that. Then I have, what's next? Then I have Race to the Stones, which is a 100k ultramarathon, and that's a return to Race to the Stones. That was my first ever event. That was my first ever challenge I entered into as a great big fat bloke back in 2019. So I'm returning to it 5 years later. I'm really, really looking forward to that. Then I have the Thames Path Challenge again. I did the Thames Path Challenge last year. Absolutely loved it. Did it on the hottest day of the year. It nearly killed me. But again, running along the River Thames in the summer, come on. Who wouldn't want to run 100k along the River Thames? Me, once I reached about 70k, I didn't want to do it anymore. And then after that, I have, what's after that? I think I've got a couple of half marathons and a couple of marathons lined up. But yeah, that's this year. That's what I've got planned this year. So yeah, thank you for listening to my second ever podcast episode. I hope you like the format that I've set up in regards to Q&As. If you do like this, please let me know, because I might make some more of them. My next episode is going to be me talking through my Race to the Stones experience in 2019 and my triumphant return to it this year in July. I'm really looking forward to returning to the Race to the Stones challenge. So that's going to be next episode. If that's something you think you might be interested in, then please consider signing up to my Patreon or join page on YouTube. That would mean an awful lot in support. Thank you very much, and see you in the next episode.